On Andy James on the 58. Now a big change here as we go to the 125 class. You had bikes that were 360s, 500s, 250s and up at least, and now the little guys out there, the Bs.
And look who's right behind Andy, if you can. That is Josh James, his son.
Yeah. And those two will go at it. And so you've got about a 25-year age gap,
yeah.
but not a whole lot difference in ability. Andy is an extremely good rider, especially in the vintage class. He's
looking
cruising
over his shoulder. He's saying, okay, I know Josh is coming. I'm going to get back on the back fender of this 125 and make it plant.
Josh will push him hard, too. He'll want to get around his dad, so we'll see what happens here. This should be some good racing.
Boy, and when we're talking about plant, you could actually plant a crop with that 125 roost. Look at that. I'm amazed at how much dirt he's able to kick up on that 125. He gets back up.
They're really ringing those things out. You can hear those things just buzzing. So they're getting some high RPMs out of these guys.
Bucking up and down the hill and into the S-turns. It's Andy James and Josh James. A good race out here in the Sportsman 125 expert class with Mickey Sargent and Brian Ellingson also in the experts.
I have two. They're called Penton motorcycles, which were the first KTMs that were imported under the Penton name. They came with Sachs motors called 6Bs, one of the first 6-speed transmissions. The red one's a 100, which is a 74.5, which is about the last of the 100s they made. And this is a 74, 125. It's fun. You don't see a lot of people don't like to ride the Pentons with the Sachs engines because the transmissions are very difficult to work on and get them to shift. So that's why you don't see too many of them out here. So it takes a lot of patience and understanding on how to get the transmissions to shift on them.
The 58, Andy James. The 87, Josh James. It looks like he's picked up a piece of the ribbon or streamer from the track at some point, and down
Josh.
on the inside comes Josh James. Vintage motocross racing action down the fields of the Palouse.
Yeah, this is some racing action at its best out here. Josh was a really good motocross rider. Raced a lot out at Airway Motocross Park, and now with his dad, he's pushing in on him. He's gonna get a little bump as he looks back.
Say, what are you doing, Dad? I can ground you, son.
He got around him.
The 87 of Josh James takes over first place. Andy reluctantly relinquishing the lead.
Well, we'll see what happens. Going up that hill, Andy's not giving up on him at all.
Oh, he sure is. And they cut across. Kind of looks like they're going downhill for just a second, but they're actually going back behind the area where we cannot see.
And then they pick it back
Into
up
the
across.
hidden,
Yeah, they're heading across the top, though, the fastest part of the section, really. They get a lot of speed there.
Yeah, crazy.
And then you turn and you come right back down the hill again, and some off-camber kind of style turns where you're going downhill, turning the opposite way, and makes it for a little more skill level there. But these guys got a nice little lead. The son and the father there, Andy and Josh James.
Riding the Hondas here this afternoon, the Elsinore 125s.
You see a lot of old Honda Elsinores. Boy, that's 1972, 73 years for them were great. They must have sold 1 million of those bikes because Elsinore was a big, big name.
It's the Sportsman 125 intermediate and expert class. You're watching the expert class leading the intermediates around the track right now with Josh leading those experts. Josh James on the 87, Andy James on the 58. There's the 84, third place Brian Ellingson.
He's tightened it up a little bit there. That's a pretty good trio of riders right there as they take the white flag last lap, and you've got a 1, 2, 3 that are all just throw a blanket over these guys.
There is just some great camera angles coming from all sections of the track right now as they focus in on the lead pack. Josh James heads up the hill one more time here at the Rattlers Run Farms.
Nice little lead there. Good hill there for Josh. He was able to get some power. Look at those things just ripping around those corners on these bikes. It's so fun on these 125s because they really can give it a lot of power throughout the entire course.
Looks like Mickey Sargent on the Beaverton, Oregon Penton now making his way back towards the starting line area, or finish line, I should say. I get that confused because of the other track. Taking the white flag. Mickey Sargent heads up the hill, and our leader comes back down the hill. It's the 87 of Josh James.
Andy's getting a little bit of pressure now by Ellingson. That battle for second is the race right now. It's tightened up very, very close, and it looks like Ellingson trying to do everything he can to see if he can get around him in these last corners. Woo, that's tight.
It's Josh James, Andy James, Brian Ellingson, all from Spokane, Washington. Riding the Yamaha is Brian Ellingson, Andy James, and Josh James on the Hondas.
Ooh, Ellingson got him right there.
On the inside goes Ellingson. Andy knows there's not much time left.
Now Ellingson had a really good high-speed, big sweeping corner there. He really went hard around the outside and was able to nab Andy there at the last couple corners.
One last turn, and boy, almost a tricky one there for not only Josh James, but Brian Ellingson in second place. Andy James will take third place, followed by Ken Conrad, Ted Arnold, Doug Riddle, Jesse Ennis.
Good run for those guys. That was a fun race. That was a good one.
We'll take it down to the Fasteners Incorporated Winner's Circle with Bruce Dimming and Josh James.
So we all saw that pass. That was pretty awesome.
That was awesome. Be out there with my dad and Brian. That was pretty fun. And
would you have made that pass on anybody else?
Say that again.
Would you have made that pass on anybody else?
Oh yeah, but a little aggression went towards your dad.
Yeah, well, you didn't punt him.
No, I didn't punt him, but
Yeah.
every year it's he or I that wins this, or
Okay.
our personal battle.
Well, that's a pass of the race so far.
All right, thank you.
Race coverage from Rattlers Run Farms continues in just a few moments after these words from our sponsors here on SWX. One of the things we get to do at every single one of these motocross races is get to know the racers. It's the riders' beat.
Yeah, and you get to know the track a little bit too, and it's a great way to figure out the rules, the order of the motos that'll be coming up, maybe some of the staff that will be helping out on the track, the flaggers involved, and also some of the safety involved. And some of the behind-the-scenes guys that really are the ones that are instrumental of pulling this thing off and gives you basically an outline and a rundown for the day's racing action.
Rodney Reed gets ready to come off the starting line there on the Suzuki. Running 352 here. We're looking at our classic 125 intermediates and experts. Mickey Sargent right next to him on the 36M. He's got that left-hand kickstart there. And not the easiest thing in the world, but for the 125 is not too bad. If you're trying to left-hand kickstart a 500.
Yeah, good luck.
We've also got Ed Shandel on the number 777 CZ. Josh James will be in this race on the 87 Yamaha. William Boab on the number 21.
Getting ready to go now.
Williams riding the number 21 Husky here today out of Cooley City, Washington. Baron Richards on the 31. Joe Thomas on the 98. It'll be the 117 of Joe Clockerbold on the Hodaka, along with Chris Kerber on the 686 Honda out of Kaiser, Idaho, or Kaiser, Oregon. It's Mickey up the hill first. Mickey Sargent riding the Penton.
Good clean start there. No issues for anybody out of corner one up the hill, and you're off and running in a 125 expert, 125 intermediate class. Classic.
All of our experts out in front. Mickey Sargent, Ed Shandel, Josh James, 1, 2, and 3 as you saw him come past. And boy, this is going to be a good race. Look at these two going at it.
Head back down the hill now, and you come around, so it's a little tricky corner there as you're heading downhill and then turning off to your left. You can see guys kind of fighting their way through that one. That's a tough spot of the track, especially when there's some congestion.
The race is for second place right now as the 777 of Ed Shandel. I believe that was the 87 of Josh James behind him.
It's a 1972 CZ125, actually built by a guy in Spokane by the name of Fred Lafrite. who owns Novation Racing. I bought it from him a few years ago, and I'm really enjoying it. I've been racing vintage 10 years, and then as a kid before that, 30 years prior. And when I heard I could get back into this, I checked into it, and I'm loving it. It's the atmosphere, it's the scene, it's the beauty of the landscape, it's all the above. And everybody's very friendly, and it's just a nice weekend.
Our leader, Mickey Sargent, no problem with his name as he heads back up the hill. We've got a rider down, and that is the 777 of Ed Shandle on the CZ. Oh, and darn it, that's going to be an expensive part.
That pipe is, yeah.
He's going to keep running it. He don't care, it's dragging.
It is dragging. It broke the bracket on that.
Broke the bracket clean
right
off
off
of it.
that pipe, yeah. And
Take a look at it.
See how,
And that's a competitor for you. You know, hey, how long you think that spring's going to hold that
I don't
thing
know,
up?
not long. It's dragging. Well, hopefully it hangs on for as long as possible for him. He's looking down at it now.
He doesn't want to lose the pipe, that's for sure, because that could cause some engine damage by the time they're all done, especially if something flies into the piston jug there. Yeah.
He's probably taking it a little easier. He's slowed way down and probably pulling. Yeah, he's gonna pull off. Just at this point, he got some good laps in. He had some good racing, but you know, you don't want to damage one of your bike. That's such a prized possession, and so much work's gone into it. Get a new bracket on that thing, get her fixed, and start again.
Yeah, well, we certainly hope he gets back into one of these races out here at Rattlers Run today. There's Joe Clockavold out of Spokane on the Hodaka, number 117, 62 years old, out there having some fun out here on the hills and dales of the Palouse.
Sargent keeps that lead going along. He's winding her down for a checkered flag for him.
Coming back down the hill, they come through that tricky portion of the course, and these are the off-camber turns where it's just not natural for the bike to want to turn.
Yeah, you're turning the opposite of the way that the ground is. It's falling away from you, and you have to turn through it and go against it. And it's nothing like these big sweeping corners where you can keep a lot of high speed and really get on it. When it's that off-camber, boy, it is a weird balancing act, and really you have to slow her down.
Here's a good shot of Andy James watching the whole event towards the bridge turn run as Mickey Sargent right over his left-hand shoulder now comes into the S-turns.
Yep, comes into view to finish this thing up. Yeah, that's a great shot of the guy that's an instrumental part of having this race out here today, and the guy that's going to win this class.
Mickey Sargent on the 36M. Now takes the left-hand turn, takes the checkered flag.
Good run for him. He had that thing start to finish. We saw some of these guys. Boy, it's fun how they come out of this starting line, man. These guys really are really pumped to try to get that hole shot. And once they've been able to do that, they've been able to kind of just hang up front. The track's in great shape, obviously, and there seems to be a lot of traction now, and everybody's really doing good.
Let's toss it to Bruce Dimming in the Fasteners Incorporated winner's circle with Mickey.
All right, man, you made it look pretty easy out there.
It wasn't that easy. The off-camber corners are really tough.
Yeah. Well, the old pen looks like it was working good for you.
Yeah, it runs pretty good. These hills are really suck the horsepower out of them, though.
Yeah, pretty fun track.
It's still a fun track, yeah, really technical.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming over.
Great, thank you.
We've got more racing coming your way in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere right after this break here on SWX. I'd like to take a moment to thank Northwest Steel Fab for sponsoring today's AHRMA Nationals. From Northwest Steel Fab, your one-stop shop for steel, aluminum, and stainless steel fabrication, preparation, and coatings. We've been providing quality products to customers worldwide since 1994.
What I do is I custom build these swing arms for the vintage bikes and for the modern bikes. Craft them just for the racer, the one who's really into it, wants something trick, wants a hot rod, that type of thing. So yeah, I build these things and sell them all across the world. I've always worked in that industry, When I first started out, my first apprenticeship job was building sprint car, race car parts for guys like Tom Sneva and Jim Tipke. I worked for Jim Tipke, and a big name in Spokane. So I eventually started my own company, and that's my product right there.
Bill Rionda, he's riding the 72 Triumph on the track here in just a few, and you notice that start there, Eddie, as we go through the Sportsman Open Twins, intermediates, the women's expert and intermediates. That's a rubber band that's going across there.
Different than what you're used to seeing at the motocross track, where it's a gate that'll drop and they pull the plug on the gate and drop it. This one, they just snap the band and it'll just snap right across, and you'll see it just swing it. And once that thing disappears in front of your face, time to go.
You don't want to jump that gate, do you?
Get you right in the head.
Right in the goggles.
It's like Matt James with a great jump out of there. That thing flew out of his face, and off he went, and he's up the hill for first place.
They were having some problems with the clutch on that Triumph a little earlier in the pits, and he was grinding gears. It's a beautiful, beautiful Triumph bike. When you get a chance to see this in high definition, you're going to see just one of the prettier machines out here on the track. But boy, when it was grinding gears, that was not pretty.
No, and he's had that bike for a while. He's ridden it out here multiple years and races, and
there it is.
It is a nice looking bike.
Matt James, famous for his flat tracking abilities, and of course he loves his Triumphs.
Yeah, he was fast back in the day, and the brother Andy James, and he was one of the best local pros and flat track riders we had in this area way back in the 70s.
His daughter Ari James in the women's expert class out there on the Mako, number 5R. You've also got Shauna Genova riding the Moto Concepts Mako. Theron Richards on the number 31R. She's riding out of Bellingham on the Husqvarna. Debbie Poole on the 57W BSA out of Tiburon, California. Cherie Howell, she's here today, riding out of Spokane Valley on the S2 Yamaha. And Nancy Richards on the 312 Husky out of Bellingham as well. You've also got Tia Flynn and Ellen Bormans out of Rio Oso, California on the BSA.
Yeah, another 56-year-old out of California there. And that's just great to see. We have 8 different women riders.
And Ari James on the 5R. What a pretty bike she's got as well.
She's right behind her dad. Matt James in first, Ari in second. So the James gang out front again.
The women's expert class showing 6 entries with the intermediates 2 entries. So a total of 8 women out here racing it out.
Yeah, that's great to see that the women of all ages are out here riding and racing as well. What a fun day for them.
Her dad out in front, Matt James on the 3R. Open twin intermediate sportsman class rider Bill Rionda on the number 72 Triumph for Blues Country Sports out of San Jose, California. He's being shown in first in his open twin class. There's the 72 of Bill.
69-year-old out of San Jose, California, made his way up here.
A perfect example of a street bike turned into a dirt bike. A lot of these Triumphs are like that. You know, they put the high fenders on them after CZ started doing it.
Yeah, that's a heavy, old, heavy bike, but it's made for not leaving the ground very much, and this is why it's the perfect kind